it's pretty much mandatory for teaching students. I wouldn't say it's really popular for it's really popular for working in, but it's definitely one of the more popular languages. I would say Python is super popular only because computer science professors have taught it as an easy introduction into programming as a whole. I don't really like Python. It's very slow. It is very easy to learn, and it's used for a lot of different things like data science, back-end work, even some front-end applications you could write in Python. When it really comes down to it, all languages can be used in all different types of ways. You just have to be creative. After Python, we have Java, which between Java and Kotlin, these are the main languages behind building Android applications. They are also kind of on the slower side compared to like C# and C++. JavaScript is also very slow compared to C# and C++ or C. But the thing about Python and Java and JavaScript is that a lot of people write in them. So a lot of people write pre-made code. So in a lot of coding languages, we have something called libraries, which are basically other people's code that we can access and we can use. So basically, let's say someone else wrote a you mean the process? No, what I mean by slow is I mean like when it compiles, how fast it runs, Matthew. So when we're talking about code, we have to think about everybody using our code. If we're building an application, we can't just think about us using the application. We have to think about hundreds of thousands of people using our application. If we don't write our code properly, then our applications will crash. What's it's called scalability. That's the word that most people would use. And when we're building our applications, we want everybody to have a good experience on our websites or our applications. And if we don't write in a very fast compiling language, then the scalability is affected by that. So that's why most back-end servers, or most servers that I've worked in, were written in C#, which is a C-based language. It's very, very fast. It is not very convenient to write. If you've written C++, like I know some of you have taken, it's a little bit of a pain in the neck because you have to strongly type. And what I mean by strongly type is you have to say what type of results you are saving. You can't just say, it's not important. So the reason we're learning JavaScript really is that it's it's a third most used programming language. You can use it for a lot of different stuff. And there are a lot of different opportunities in New York City, particularly for JavaScript. You could also, so it divides it by region as well. Different locations have different programming stacks, which are basically coding languages that they like to use. I don't know why it happened like that, but if you go down to Mexico City, they use Ruby. If you go down to Florida, I think they like the Java. JavaScript is very popular in New York. C# is also very popular in New York. Python is very popular. Python and R are very popular in if you want to work for a like a trading company or a financial analysis company. They use Python and R a bunch. All the people that work next to me, they don't work in the same field as me. They work in data analysis. They use Python and R to get data and analyze it. I don't know. I'm not really a finance guy. So anyways, yeah, we'll start looking at JavaScript next week. We're gonna start with very basic stuff. If you guys were here on, if you guys, I think Ryan was there, and maybe Afrido was there on Saturday. I went over like very basic variable types and functions, but we're gonna start at the beginning, very bare bones stuff, and then we'll work our way up from there. So this week, let me find the code and I'll share it with you guys. This week we're going to be building a form, and I my girlfriend asked me why we're going to be building a form. She thought it was very boring, but it's actually like very very useful today. Now, I'm sorry, just let me find Bootstrap. So let's think about situations that we're in today, right? Let's say we're going to have any of us been to the doctor to get a COVID test or to do anything else? They usually have like a waiting list that you have to jump on, especially at the beginning of COVID. You know, there was there'd be huge lines to get a COVID test every day, and you'd have to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning to get online for a COVID test, which is ridiculous. And then somebody came up with a great idea. You know, we can virtual waiting list. And what a virtual waiting list basically is a form that takes your information and puts you into a line. You know, there are all types of so when we log in, when we log into someplace, it's a form. You know, these are form inputs, and when we submit this form, it logs us into our account. You know, so basically forms are used on every part of every website. I mean, not every part, but most parts of most websites. And today we're going to learn how to build a form in Bootstrap. So I'm going to show you what I built, and I will actually help you guys get my code. So we're gonna want to open up our we're going to want to go to where we saved all our projects. Remember, I called mine Coding Club. And then we're going to want to right click and open up terminal here. Let me know if you guys don't have that option. If we downloaded Git, we all should have this, but Windows might be a little bit, I mean, Mac might be a little bit different. If you guys don't get this option, okay, Ryan. Let's take a step back, and I'm gonna tell you guys how to move in your terminal. And I know that's kind of confusing. So if you open up your terminal, you know, blank, just go into, for a Mac user, just type in terminal and open up your terminal. It will place you on your home directory, which is basically a blank sheet. You know, my home directory is here, and you can type in a command like ls, which will show you everything in your blank directory, right? I'm actually not in my directory. Actually, you know what? I can do this in an easier way. I'm sorry, guys. Let's step back a little bit. I got a little carried away. Let's open up VS Code, and there's an easier way to do this, all right? So let's first create a folder, and let's call it, I called mine Bootstrap form, but I already have a Bootstrap form because I already built this. So let's call it form Bootstrap, right? And then let's open up VS Code. And let's open up folder. And let's select the folder we just made. Is everybody there? Did I go too fast? Is everybody okay? Everybody got it. I'm not there yet. Who was that? Oh, Ryan. So you're good now, or you're not there yet? Okay, cool. So once we're here, we can open up a new terminal by clicking on Terminal, New Terminal. And if you open up the link I sent you, you'll come to this page right here. And we're going to clone. So we're going to click on code. And then we're going to click on this little button right here, which copies this URL. And then we should be able to clone by just saying git clone and then pasting that URL. Cool. Is everybody at the same place I am? Or close? Good. All right. Then we're gonna go to File, Open Folder, and we're gonna click on the folder we made, and inside of that folder will be another folder called Bootstrap Form, and we'll select that folder just so that we're in the right place. We're all in the same folder, and nobody's lost. All right? Yeah. So you're gonna go over to File, Terminal, New Terminal, and you're gonna say Git clone, and then paste in that link and press enter, and it will copy all that code from that directory into your private directory on your computer. So now you have access to everything I wrote. And once you do that, you're going to go to File, Open Folder. You're going to open the folder that you made before, which is Form Bootstrap or Bootstrap Form, whatever you said. You're going to click through, and then you're going to see the folder that we just cloned, which is called Bootstrap Form. And then you click Select Folder, and it'll bring you to this screen here where you have one folder with 3 files named Final, Index, and Second. Is everybody there? All right, Ryan. Why don't you share your screen and let's see what you have, because other people might have the same problem. I felt like I kind of explained that in a little bit of backwards way, and I want to make sure that everybody. Can you make your screen large? Can you scroll up in the terminal a little bit? Perfect. Up. Yeah, so you need to write git clone and then paste in the URL that, so let's do it together. Go to the chat. Yep, perfect. Actually, and I go back to my GitHub. See, yeah, you didn't. Cool. Now go to my GitHub. Press that little button there. Yeah. Paste it in there. Cool. Open folder. Click on that one. Just click, no, don't open. Just click on it. Double click. Now click on that one and say open. See, now we're in Bootstrap. We're inside the folder inside of that folder you created, all right? Cool. Everybody's good? Okay. Oh, good. Okay. Screen two. Okay. So we have 3 files inside of this this folder that I shared with you. I'm sorry, so let me open up the chat real quick. We have 3 files inside of the folder that I shared with you guys. And if we remember, the practices that we try to keep is that the index.html will always be the first page that you view, because when a server looks for a start point, we try to always name it index. All right, it's just a good practice. You don't have to name an index, but it's a good practice when you're working with other programmers to name things the same. All right, so we're just going to open it up, and we have a lot of HTML in here. And let's just go over what we have here. You know, it's the basic boilerplate that we always use. You know, we have a head tag with some meta tags inside of it. Most importantly, we have a link tag with a style sheet connected to Bootstrap's Bootstrap style sheet. And if you remember what we went over last week, we can have style sheets from anywhere. And this is another package that Twitter put out that we could use, so we don't have to write our styles ourselves. And when we import the style sheet, we have access to all the styles that Bootstrap has written by using their classes. And we will show how we do that in a little bit. All right. We also have a couple other things. We have a div. Well, we have a body, and inside of that body, we have these scripts down here, which are scripts for Bootstrap. And besides that, we have a div with a container fluid. If you guys remember 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, I was teaching you guys about display flex and flex direction of row and flex direction of column. And in Bootstrap, in order to use rows and columns, we need to put them inside of a container. And if we want the container to take up the whole entire space of the screen, we name it container fluid, which means it's a fluid object that can grow and shrink depending on screen size, right? Inside of that div, we have another div with a row, with a class of row, right? Which means every object inside of that, placed inside of this class of row, will be placed horizontally. And then inside of that, we have a div of class, a class of column, which states that everything put inside of that column will be stacked vertically, right? Don't worry about any of the other tags. We'll go over them as we do it. Next, we have a form tag, which states that we're about to use a form. We have some inputs. We have some labels, and we have a button. Nothing too complex. And the other HTML files are pretty much the same. I'm just going to open this up so we can look at it and see what we're going to build. Super simple form. What's most important about this is that we're going to put it to our screen. We're going to put a screen size of an iPhone X. It looks perfect. We're going to put it to an iPad. Also looks good. We're going to put it for a regular screen. Also looks good. It shrinks and grows depending on the screen. We can enter our email. Sorry about that. Whatever.com, doesn't matter. Our password. And you notice how these are all case sensitive, not case sensitive, but they're protected. We click next. We get a different screen for our name. We have a tick box to remember us or not. You submit it, and then we get a thank you for your submission. An email will be sent to your email address. And it looks exactly the same not exactly the same, but it's usable for all phone sizes, which is very, very important. This is not something that you should really take for granted. Believe me, when you're a programmer and you're working, you will have to sometimes create two different code bases, one for your phone, one for your computers. So having one code base for both is really a time saver, and you gotta really take it when you can take it. All right. Okay. So let's start from scratch. All right. You can keep my code to the side if you want a reference. I will also do the same. But we're going to start to build this by hand, all right? I'm just going to move this off to the other screen. I probably won't be able to look at chat at the exact same time. Joffrey's got it, I think, or Vanessa. If you need me to, there are times, if you're not getting it or I went too fast, please just turn on your mic and just let me know, and I will stop what I'm doing, and I will help you guys like I usually do. Just let me know, please. I only have 2 streams, and I have to keep my code to the side so that I can keep it as a reference. All right. So let me just open this to the side. Okay. Actually, be back in. Okay. Okay, maybe. All right, sorry. All right, so let's start from scratch. First thing we're always going to do, guys, don't try to memorize any code. It's not worth it to memorize code. Let's go to getbootstrap.com. I'm going to put it inside of the chat. Getting started. Okay. Oh, I sent it the best mistake. Did everybody get that link? Everybody has it opened up. So now that we have that opened up, I'm going to go into the folder that I just created. I'm going to create a new folder for my code, and I'm going to say I put this in the same directory as the directory that I cloned the Bootstrap form into, just because I probably will delete this after. You can put this wherever you want, as long as you know where this folder is, right? Then we're going to open up VS Code. Wrong one. Open up VS Code. And we're going to open up folder. I'm going to go to where I created that folder. Wherever you created is where it will be. So don't follow me blindly. Follow yourself. Okay. So now I have a clean project. There's nothing inside of it. Let me know if we're all on the same page. We have a clean project. There's no code inside of it, and we're ready to code a new project. Matthew's good. Joel's good. Ryan, how you doing out there? Hands? Good. All right. By your silence, I will take it that you all are at the same place that I am at. We are at VS Code. We're in VS Code. We have a fresh project. There's nothing inside of it. And we're going to start working on building this little form application together. Is everybody good? All right. So we're going to create a new file like we always do. So the way we do that is we come next to form where our folder is, and we find this little widget, this little button that says, it looks like a page with a plus next to it. If you hover over it, it's just a new file. So we're going to create a new file, and we're going to call it index, index.html. And now we have a blank HTML file, right? Next, we're going to use our little plugins that we always use to help us out by running HTML and clicking on the bottom one, which says HTML5 boilerplate. I think you also can click on HTML:5, but I used the HTML5 boilerplate. I downloaded it for that purpose, and it never steers me wrong. So if you have that one, click it. I delete that code because I don't need it. Anything that has a less than sign and an exclamation point, sorry, is a comment in HTML, and we don't need it because it does not affect our code in any type of way. All right. So once we're here, we have a blank project. We can run this in live server, and it's blank. It's nothing. So the first thing we do in a Bootstrap project, every single time, we have to install Bootstrap, right? So we come over to the Bootstrap documentation, to the introduction page, and we scan a little bit. They start with Bootstrap, the world's most popular framework for building responsive mobile-first websites, blah blah blah. Quick start. Looking to quickly add Bootstrap to your project, use the Bootstrap CDN, provided free by the folks at StackPath, right? And the way you do that is that you take the CSS link, you copy it, you come back over to our code. We go to the head tag, we go above the link, and we press paste, right? And I went over this last week, but I'm gonna say it one more time because you should know it. The order of your style sheets are very important, right? Your style, the script will read the last style placed in for your elements, right? So let's say we both had a class of we had a div, right, and had a class of I don't know, background, right? Now let's say there was a background class in this style sheet. It will be overridden by the background class written this style sheet, the one below, because HTML, the compiler reads top to bottom. So anything stated here, if it's stated again here in the second style sheet, will be overridden. All right. So we have this style sheet given to us by Bootstrap, and if we want to write supplemental styles, we save this space for us. All right. We don't need to use it. We're not going to use it this lesson, but it's always good to know that, you know, if you want to write custom styles for Bootstrap, you can. All right. All right. Now let's go back to the installation documentation, and let's look at the next step. Many of our components require the use of JavaScript to function, especially the required jQuery and Popper.js and our own JavaScript plugin, right? Place the following scripts near the end of your page right before the closing body tag to enable them. jQuery must come first, then Popper.js, then our JavaScript plugins, right? We don't really have to be concerned about the order of the JavaScript files. They already have it in the proper order, but I will go over why we need to have them in the proper order, right? This JavaScript relies on other JavaScript, and this bottom JavaScript will be read last, right? But it might rely on JavaScript that's stated up in the top row, right? So we always want to keep JavaScript compiled in the same order when we're dealing with, when we're dealing with multiple script files, right? So all I have to do is go to the right, click copy, come back to our VS Code, and paste in the script files above our current script. I'm just going to place them in order. It's not working. I'm going to make them look nice and neat, because when we're coding, we want to have everything very orderly, because as you saw before, we have a lot going on and we don't want to get lost in our own code, right? Okay. So I'm going to open up this. Oh, it's not right. Now, let's look at a couple things that I have going on in my current project, right? We are accessing the whole screen size. We want our form to be in the middle of the whole screen. And if we want our components to be in the middle of the whole screen, we have to have access to the whole screen. We need to know what the whole screen is. And the way we would do that is by setting a container class with a style of fluid. A container div with a class of container dash fluid. So what that basically does is puts a div that's the whole width and height of the screen, all right? So the first thing we're going to do is create a div, right? And we're going to give it a class of container. Sorry about that. Now let's come back to our code. Oh, sorry about that. We all make mistakes. Okay. So now I have a bunch of nothing, but what I really have is a container that is fluid, it doesn't have any height, but it stretches apart across the whole width of the screen, that's going to really be key when we start adding rows and columns, right? So next, we want to place a column in the center, right? I feel like the best way to do that is to center it within a row, wouldn't you say, right? So if we create a row and then a column, we can stack it vertically, and then we can stack everything inside it horizontally, all right? So that might be a little confusing, but I'm gonna show you how to do it right now. We're gonna create a row, a div with the class of row. And if you didn't get what I just did, you were looking at my screen. Also, it's a little bit bigger for everybody. If you didn't get what I just did, it's a little shortcut that if you press a period sign, which in CSS stands for class, right? And then you write the class name, which is row, and press tab, it will create a div for you with the class of row, right? Okay. Okay. So I want to write a little bit of custom code for this class, for this row. I want this row to be 100% height of the screen. So any screen that opens it will have the same view of it. So I'm gonna put some custom styles within the div. I'm gonna do that again for you, for anybody that isn't aware about inline styles. So we can write styles in a lot of different ways. We saw how to do it inline like this before. We've seen they could be imported from other places, and we can also import our own styles from other style sheets. But if you want to add a style quickly, all you need to do is after the quotation marks in class, we can write another accessor called style and put quotation marks, and then we can set some styles in here real quick. I'm gonna put a style of height and set it to 100 viewports. Remember, viewports stand for 100% of the screen size that's rendering the page, all right? So if we come back to our code, now we have a container which has a row whose height is 100 viewports, all right? So I take this away, you don't see anything because the height is 0. Now we give the row a height of 100, and now it has access to the whole entire screen. And we see that as it changes screen sizes, it also changes the height of the row. Okay. Is everybody on the same page as me right now? Cool. Okay. So remember last week when we created columns, right? So I want to put a form element inside of this application, right? think there's another way I could do this. I think I should do it the wrong way, but it looked good. Can you guys bear with me for 1 second? I want to make sure that I'm not leading you guys astray. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So now I want to set how big this column is going to be inside of our code, right? This is really important when we're thinking about different sizes of phones. We always want to have the items at a usable size, you know? And the way we do that is we create a column with a specific size, right? So we're going to create a div with the class of column. And we're going to do that for now, right? That's it. Now, when we don't set the size of a column in Bootstrap, it automatically assumes that it can take up the whole entire row. And we don't really want that. I mean, we could use that, but you got to think that might look really good on mobile, but it's probably going to look trash on on a big desktop, you know? It just doesn't make any sense. So remember the way that we set like responsive code for well, let's remember the way that we set the width for a column, right? So the columns, the rows are broken up into 12 columns, and we can say how many columns we want to take up if we write a dash, right? So we see that we have numbers 1 through 12 here. They're not in order, which is dumb, but whatever. And I want to take up 3 columns, right? But 3 columns on a phone is really small, and 3 columns on a large desktop is pretty good size to use, you know. So I want to say anything larger than a medium screen, we're going to use 3 columns, and anything lower than a medium screen, it's going to be set to a regular column, which will take up the whole screen, right? It makes it usable for both large desktops and for small phones, right? And let's just test out this code and see where we are. I'm going to write a little bit of text inside this box, and we'll probably have to readjust depending on what we see now, right? Oh no, it's not exactly what we wanted, right? All right, so we have a row, which is the whole entire screen, right? Oh, we have a row, then we have a column, but it's all the way to the left, you know? It doesn't really do anything for us. It's not exactly where we want our items to really be. So what about we set some rules for the row to position the column correctly, right? So what did we use in display in 2 weeks ago when we were using display flex? When we wanted to position something correctly. Does anybody remember? Very close, yes. We had 2 things we could use, justify content and align items, right? Or align content. So we're gonna write justify content center because it's a class that Bootstrap provides to us, right? And let's see how that works out for us. Oh, cool. Now we have this item right in the middle, right? but I kind of want this directly in the middle of the screen, right? So there's another class that we can use called align content center. All right. And now we see we're directly in the middle. And I know it's not helpful because of the hello seems to be off to the left. That's because the column is the items that are being centered and not the text inside of the column. So we also have to center the column items, right? We want everything to be perfectly in the middle, you know? So the way that we do that is we're going to give this column a display of flex, right? Like we would do in regular CSS, but it's super easy to do in Bootstrap. All you have to say is d-flex. Now we have a flex container in the middle of this item, right? And if we want our item centered, we just go item content center, and then we should have directly in the middle, right? So make screen small, change it to a Galaxy, Surface Duo, iPad Pro, iPhone X, always going to be right in the middle. And we don't have to worry about it ever again. Now we can write code pretty carefree, and we can keep moving forward. Is everybody on the same page? Like I said, if anybody is stuck, please let me know, and we can move backwards, no problem at all. I understand sometimes I ramble. I need to get somebody behind me to prod me with a pitchfork or something. On the same page. I have something different. Okay, cool. Ryan, let's see what you got. Can you share your screen, Ryan? And Ryan, let me first say I appreciate you being so willing to share when you have a problem, because some other students might not want to be, want to admit that they're not getting this, but it's totally natural, and I really appreciate it because we can work through your problems together, you know? So let's make this full screen. Okay, so let's right click and go to inspect element. All the way to the bottom. Okay, so for everybody that doesn't know, this is the element inspector. You can see all your code. You can change the screen sizes. This is the best way to troubleshoot your code when something's not going right, you know? It helps you find out what's going on. So I'm just gonna move this over here so everybody can see themselves. Let's look at can you hover over on the right where it says div, where it's lit up? Click on that. Okay. So I see where you messed up. Look at the class above that. Yeah. The align has an extra L in it. In align center. So click on that, double click, and just delete one of the L's. Yep. And click out of it. Okay. Click somewhere. Yep. Okay, so now we're down in the middle, all right? And to justify has an extra T in it in the class of row, the class of column. The one below it. Yep. So take out the T. And now we're right in the middle. Now, click refresh for me. Yep, right there. We see that none of the stuff saved because it's not saving to your code. This is just in the browser. So now you have to go back into your code and make all those changes. You got that, Ryan? So guys, this is a really good lesson for all of us. You know, if you have a problem, yeah, ask me 100%. I am always able to answer questions for you guys, right? But take a look at it inside of your browser, right click on inspect, and just poke around and play with things. You know, if you delete something here, you know, it's not going to break it, you know. It's not going to break it permanently, just it's only in the browser, and it's a good way to test stuff without changing it permanently. All right. So now everybody should have a div, a hello in the smack dab in the middle of their screen. Does everybody see that? Just go chat back. Yep. Yes. Cool. Okay. Now I won't lie to you. I didn't write any of the code inside that form, really. I changed some of it, but it's already written for us in the Bootstrap documentation. So let's learn how to find the code, what code to steal and how to alter it for our purposes, right? So we come back to the Bootstrap documentation and we look on the left-hand side over here, you know, and we're gonna read through some of this stuff and see what works for us, what we need, you know. We got layout, we got content, we got components, we got utilities, extended, migration, and about. All right. I don't even know what these bottom three do. I'm not going to bother with them. Utilities sounds like something. Components, though, it sounds like something we can use, right? So let's click on that. All right, so now we got a bunch of components that we can use. You know, we got alerts, badges, breadcrumbs, buttons, button groups, cards, carousels, collapse, drop downs, forms. Oof, right there, forms. And we have a perfect form for us to use. Awesome, right? Does everybody see where this is? I'm gonna put it inside the chat, just in case you can't find it by yourself. So if we look on this page, you know, we can read this. You definitely should do a little bit of reading, you know. I've been coding for a long time, so I know what I'm looking for. But you know, these are just examples, and I won't say that, you know, this is some of the best documentation you're gonna find, but documentation across the board kind of looks like this. So anytime you want to learn something new, you know, let's say you want to learn a new type of, there are different styles that other people have put out there into the world. So we don't have to use Bootstrap. There's things called Tailwind and Tree something. I don't know. I don't really use them. But if you want to learn a new one, all you got to do is find the documentation, read through it a little bit, and then borrow what you want to borrow, you know? All right. So let's look through it. Let's see what we want. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff here. Is select lists. You know, I don't really want that, but seems pretty cool. There's an input file. We can grab files from our computer and upload them. We have different files. We have different input sizing. Right. And we only have kind of really have to look at this stuff if we need it, you know. I don't really want the this form in the beginning. right? It kind of does everything I need. It's got 2 inputs. I can make more inputs if I want. It's got a radio button, it's got a button, and it's got a regular button down here, right? So let's do all this. Whoop. It's fine now. And we're gonna place this inside of the column that we just made. We're gonna take out this hello because it's not really used for anything, and we're gonna place this this form inside here, right? Now let's look at what I have. This one. I mean, that's pretty much almost done. You know, I did a little bit more coding, but I mean, there's slight differences, but everything you need is already here. But we're gonna go over what everything is and how to make it your own, right? Okay, so let's walk through this code for a little bit, right? We have 3 divs inside of this form and a button, all right? And if we come back to our live server, we have one input for email address, we have 1 input for password, and we have a button, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, and a button, right? So if we go back to our code, we have 1, 2, 3, right, and a button. So let's look at the elements that are within a form component, right? So first off, we have a div, right? And this div contains everything that pertains to one element, right? So let's look inside this div and just see what we have. We have a label that says email address. We have an input for email address, right? And then we have some small text, right, that says we'll never share your email with anyone else, right? We come back to our code. We have a label. I'll make this big so I can highlight. We have a label. We have an input. And we have some small text, all right? Cool. I'm going to delete the small text just because I don't care what that says, and I don't think anybody else does, right? It's not important. It's not going to break anything, right? Hypothetically, you can do whatever you want out of this. You can make it your own, right? So we have some other elements within our tags, right? So the first one I'm gonna look at is this for, right? This for element tag, or it's called a selector, states what this element is doing. What is it for, you know? Next to that, we have the text that's going to be displayed inside that label. And below that, we have an input, right? First off, we have a type of input, you know? This will provide a little bit of validation. And what I mean by validation, we know proper format of email, and we know the proper format of text, proper format of a phone number, and we can set the different type of types within here, you know? So we can write text, we can write email, we can write phone number. Is it phone number or number? Number. But I want to keep it as email because we need it as an email, right? And then it gets a class of form control, which just styles it according to the Bootstrap style sheet, right? We don't gotta worry about this. This is a custom selector that is not important. We also have an ID that is given to us by Bootstrap, also not important. Because remember, classes are the only thing that style in Bootstrap, not IDs. Right? So below that, we have another form group, right? Similarly, we have a label. It states that it's for the input password, right? It says that it's password. Below, we have an input type of password, which when you set the type to password, it's what gives it the control of being protected, right? If this was a plain text or an email, you would see the words. It's that easy, you know. We literally don't have to do anything, right? And then one last, so we have type of password, the class of form control like we had before. We have an ID, which we don't need, and then we have a placeholder. A placeholder is just what goes inside of the input before you type. So we have password here, we have enter email here, and if we come back to our form, we have enter email and we have password, right? So right now we have a basic login. You click it, nothing happens, but we're gonna change that, right? So let's go back to our code. I'm actually going to create a new HTML file. I called mine second. You can call it whatever you want. I suggest you just follow along if you don't want to get lost, or if you think you're going to get lost. And I'm going to copy all of this code, right? Now I have two identical pages, right? But how do I access the second page, right? So forms have something called actions, all right? Now, we can make this action anything we want if we knew some JavaScript, but we don't. So we're gonna make the action second.html. This means when this form is submitted, we're gonna go to the second page of HTML, right? I'm gonna change some of these labels here. They're arbitrary, they don't really matter. This is on the second page, right? Enter. First name. All right. And now, after I click submit, I come to the second page. The only reason I changed the second page is so that we can see a difference between the first page and the second page. Don't worry, I will go through it. I just want to show everybody that if you look in your browser, it will say your port number, which is all those digits, /index, which is the file that we're in, you know, .html, right? When we click submit, we go to the second page, which is second.html. Is everybody getting that? Cool. All right. So I'm going to customize this a little bit, you know. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take away. First of all, I'm in the index.html file. I just want to take away this last div above the button. It's a checkbox, and I don't really want it. I don't want it there, you know. I have another checkbox on the second page, and I will access it when I need it. All right. So after that, I want to make this, I want to make this a little more, it looks kind of weird to me, you know? Looks kind of weird to me, you know? I don't like the way it's positioned. The button is just in a weird spot. I feel like it might be cool if it was on the right-hand side. I'm a righty though. I kind of want to make this a little more uniform, you know, a little bit the way that I had it. So I'm going to give a display of flex to the form. All right. So I'm going to go back to the original index.html. I'm going to go to the form tag. I'm going to add a class of d-flex, which stands for display flex. I'm going to, sorry, I'm just checking my code, make sure I'm right. Yeah. I'm going to set a flex direction by saying flex column, flex. Sorry about that, guys. Flex column, which makes it a column, right? And then I'm going to say W100, which states the width of this flex column will be 100% of what the parent class, the parent div is. So the parent div is 3 columns wide when we're above medium. When we're below medium, it's a full column, so it will take up the whole entire screen, right? So let's come back to our screen, and there we go. Beautiful. It's completely uniform. It's easy for any thumb on the left or right side to touch. And when we're in a large screen, it's completely the size of our inputs. I just feel like it looks nicer, you know, it's clean, and we don't really have to worry about left or right fingers, right? I'm going to do the same in the second HTML page. So all I'm going to do is go to the form class in the index.html. I'm just going to copy all these classes. And I'm going to go to the second.html. I'm going to find the form, and I'm going to paste these in. All right. So now, when we go to the first page, we go to the first page, we go to the next page, it looks exactly the same. All right. I'm going to do one more thing before we move on to styling the second.html page. I want to change the name of this button, or the label inside this button, from submit to next, so that we know that this is not going to submit our form. This is going to go to the next page. It doesn't really matter. It's just really for me. All right. You don't got to worry about it. All right. Now we are in the second.html page. Let me know when we're all in the same spot, if we're all good to go, and I'll start styling up this next one. Matthew's good. Joel's good. Hans, Ryan, how you guys doing? Max, I haven't heard from you. Good. All right, good. What do you mean, Ryan? Did you copy that from read-only plaintext in Bootstrap? The form. Okay, I'll show you where I got it. So I went to forms. I went to components first, right? And then I got this whole list on the left-hand side. I went to forms, and I copied the first form. It's this one right here. They always will give you an example of what it will look like, and then they'll give you the code below it. So I wanted this form here, and just copied this, and I pasted it inside of my application. And then I did a little bit of extra stuff on top of it. Look at the code that I sent you earlier on. That's no problem. It still contains the same elements. So all these forms are going to have form groups inside of them. The form groups contain labels and inputs, right? Or a label and a select. Basically, they'll have the label and then whatever the component for entering information in below it, right? Okay. But yeah, I copied this one, the first one, just because it's one of the simplest ones, and I feel like I don't want to get too complex. You know what? Let's change up the project a little bit, right? Let's add a select input, right? The select input, you see them all the time. They're basically just drop-down menus, right? Here's one right here. Select what you want. Super easy, right? Now a select input is basically just like a list, right? Remember in a list we have a grouping of the list, and then we have list items. So we have UL, and then we have LI, 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 right? And select, we have a select option, which wraps everything, and then we have multiple options within inside of that select tag, right? So the way that we make anything, any div item, any input item in Bootstrap. So I'm on my second .html page, right? Is that we make a div. Right? I'm gonna give it a class of form group. Right? I'm going to give it a label to state what it is, you know. You don't want to confuse anybody. I'm going to say this label is for sorry guys, I'm not that creative. Let's say it's for age, right? Say age, right? And then I will put a select, right? And then I'm going to give it a couple options. And this is not just part of Bootstrap. I mean, this select field, the select tag you can use in regular code. All of these tags you can use in regular code. Remember, the classes are the only thing that are given to us by Bootstrap. So I'm going to put 18. I'm going to copy this a couple of times just because I'm lazy. me say 19, 20, 21. All right. Very select amount of agents you can be, but let's go back to Bootstrap and see if I need to give any specific classes. So we have to give the select item a class of control, form control, right? Nothing crazy. So come back here, give it a class of form control. And that's about it. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna put it above. I have a little checkbox here on the second page. I just want it above that, and so it looks a little cleaner. I'm gonna go back and check on it. All right. And now I have this container where I can select H. Very limited, but we can select H, right? Is everybody on the same page? Okay. I'm just going to customize the second .html page a little bit, only because we already have an email and a password input. I want to change it to first name and last name, because hypothetically in the situation where we are taking in a new client or something, you know, I don't know if you ever have signed up for anything and they actually for you know, email your not your password, email your last name, your first name, your phone number. They're trying to get your information. So I'm going to change the label up here. It's for example input email. I don't want it for that. I want to put it for your first name, just so we're keeping everything very neat and organized. The type is no longer an email, it's type of text, right? The placeholder, we already changed it, but we're changing it from email to enter your first name. And then subsequently below it, we're going to change this label to last name, because we no longer want the password. We were technically collected the password. This is on the second page. Remember, I'm going to change what it's for the last name. And it's not a type of password. We want to be able to see the text, so it's a type of text. And the placeholder is no longer password. It will be enter last name. All right. So now we have an input for your first name, input for your last name, an input for your age, kind of, and a checkbox that came with the text that the code that we took from Bootstrap. The only thing I'm going to change about this is this check me out text. I don't really want that there. I'm going to say remember me, or you know what, add me to mailing list. Okay, cool. So we are doing pretty good. All we have to do is basically let them know that this all has been submitted and everything's good to go. Next. So we're saying enter your email, enter your password, you know, cool. Go to the next page, enter your first name, enter your last name, enter your age, add into your mailing list. When we click select, nothing happens. All right, so remember what we did the first time to navigate to a new page after we're done with the form. We want to make the action of this form and I haven't made, and all I can do now is create a new sorry, I have a brain fart. a new file named final.html. Cool. And now I'm gonna put some boilerplate in here just so that it renders something. I'm gonna put a p tag with hey Josh. Cool. Just so that we know that the page turned to a new page, right? So let's go to the first page. Cool. So, we're walking through this. Cool, did that. Cool, did this. And then we go to the final.html, which is basically are going to be our thank you page, right? Okay. All right, Matthew. So let's recreate this, right? So every component inside of a form in Bootstrap has to be inside of a div with a class of form group, right? That groups everything together so it's nice and neat, right? Then we have to create a label for the input that we want to create, right? So that we know what we're inputting here, right? So I made the label age, and I'm gonna state it for age. And then I'm gonna create a select tag underneath it, right? The select tag is the actual item. Let me see if it will actually render anything without any object inside of it. Okay. So we see, even without anything inside of it, it still renders a drop-down menu, all right? We want to give this select menu, the select tag, a class of form. Is it form control? Yeah, I think it's form control. Right? And now we realize, now we notice that this is full size, it's uniform like everything else that was provided to us by Bootstrap, right? Now, if we want to render items inside of this select tag, we have to create options, right? So every option tag, closed, fully, start and finish, is one option, right? And the more options that you add inside of it, that's not what I wanted to do at all. Sorry about that. The more options you add inside of it, the more options your user will be able to choose from, right? I'm gonna put 5. I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And now we'll have selections from options from 1 to 5. Did you get it, Matthew? Yeah, go ahead. Let me okay, so we have a form group. So okay. So let's look at the options. All right. Now you're setting those equal to 18, right? Now the options do take a selector, but it's not equal to. So delete all of that. We do step by step. So create a base, it's a base level option tag. Yep. Cool. Now you see we have a value. Now, I should have got into that. The value sets the value of the object inside of the tag. So how do we normally say? Let's pretend like this is an H1. How do we set a text inside of an H1? Where would we put it? We put it between the two tags, right? No, no. Go see after value, the greater than sign. Go between the greater than and between the less than sign. Now write something. Like 18 or whatever, 19. Yep. And go to your code. Oh, go to your live server. Yep. Yep. Cool. Okay. So now let's talk about this for a second. The value. So now what we're saying when we put value is that the value of the select down, the drop down, will be equal to 18. So if you want to pass on the information to the server that you're passing 18, you need to put the value as 18. So between the two exclamation, yep. Now write 18. Yep. Nothing will change. We're just saying for the back end, the value of this drop down is equal to 18. Because hypothetically, we could write anything there, you know? We could write, Josh, Matthew, Ryan, you know, but if the value is set to a different thing than what's inside of the tag, then whatever the value is, we pass along, all right? There also are other selectors that go along with the option tag, such as pre-selected, selected, default. There are a couple of different ones, but I didn't really think they were really pertinent to the class. But I will definitely share some resources with everyone if you're interested in that. Let's just build out the last. Is everything okay though, Matthew? You got it? Okay. All right. So everybody's on the same page. Everybody should have something similar to what I have. Is everybody doing okay? Same page as you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's create the last thank you page, and that will be probably all the time that we have. So let's close the index.html and the second.html. We don't need those. So we want this to be in the center of our page, yeah, right? And it's kind of very simple the way we can do that. We've done it before, you know. So I need to first off add the Bootstrap to my project because I don't have access to it right now. So I'm just going to say this to the top of our script. Okay. Cool. And I will copy this. It's the bottom of my script. Cool. Format this up real quick. Okay, now Bootstrap's ready to go. And you could really just copy and paste the index.html or the second.html file and then delete all the body, but it doesn't really matter. It's up to you. Make it easier on yourself. Doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do. Are we all ready to start coding up the thank you page? Ryan, Joel, Max. Good. Okay. Okay. So remember, we want to center something. We want to be able to grab the whole width of the screen, the whole height of the screen, and then find the middle, right? So the way we do that is that we create a div with a class of container fluid. Inside of that div, we put another div with a class of row. I want this row to take up 100% of the screen. So I'm going to give it style of, style of height 100.
Hi, Josh.
Mhm.
So sorry to bother you. I think Matthew has a question for you.
Do you add start a new project? Yeah. So all these scripts are not connected, right? They're all individual pages. If when we get further on in the course, I'm going to show you how to have one major package manager that will manage all your code and spread it throughout the whole project. But for right now, we need to add them to every page because if we don't, then it won't have any. It won't know if we need this or not. You know. It has no. It doesn't know that index.html exists. Doesn't know that second.html exists. All it knows is it's rendering itself. You know. Eventually, you won't be even coding like this. Hopefully, by next semester, we'll be building projects in JavaScript, and the JavaScript itself manages all the scripts and manages all of the links to the style sheets. But for right now, while we're writing plain HTML, yes, you have to make sure that every page has access to the links and the styles, scripts. So, is that good, Matthew? Did I explain that in a good manner? All right. So now that we have a class of row in the style of height 100 vhorts, which remember is the whole rendered screen, we should have, we have a div that contains the whole entire screen and a row that contains the whole entire screen, right? Okay. So inside of that row, we want to put a column, right? That column, right? That will be 3 columns width. If it's above a medium screen and if it's below medium screen, it will be a full column, right? Now, if we write some text in here, we can find out where we stand and what we need to do, right? So now we have a column, right? We have a row that takes up the whole entire space and a column that takes up 3 columns with, right? So we need to center this column in the middle of our row. And then we need to center the column in the vertical height of this row. And then we need to center the items inside of the column to be dead center inside of the screen, right? So let's start by centering the items inside of the row. And the way that we do that is saying justify content center, align content center. And what that would do is that will center the item for us to be in the middle, but if we notice that the column is centered, but the text inside of the column is not centered. So we want everything to be perfectly centered. And since we're not dealing with a bunch of items, we can just give this column class, the column div, a class of text center, I believe. Sorry about that. And now we're perfectly centered within our screen. All right. And now we can write some, arbitrary. Thank you for submitting our form. I'm going to put an H1. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Exclamation point. And then I'm going to put a P tag below it. Right. And I'm going to say an email has been sent to the submitted address. Cool. I'm just going to give this P tag a class of text muted, right? And if we look in our utilities for Bootstrap, I'm pretty sure it's in text, and it's just a subclass that will mute the color of our text. There are a bunch of little subclasses like that. They're found in utilities. They contain our, our shadows, our sizing, our position. But I just want to add this micro class of text muted, which will make our text semi-muted. It has a very almost an Apple look. But it's the final product. And now we're going to test it. We're going to go back to the index.html page, and we're going to click through. We're going to click through, and our last page says thank you. The email has been submitted to. The email has been sent to the submitted address. Okay, very simple project, and I'm going to give you some test cases of how this can be very useful to you, right? So the way I got started in programming, started in design and everything. Oh, it's text muted, text dash muted. I'll type it in the chat if you want. Text dash muted. Sorry for going fast. We only have a little bit of time left. So I used to work for a law firm in the marketing department, and I would design all the graphics, the website. Most importantly, I worked with the marketing team to bring in new leads for the law firm, right? And the most important way that we got leads was through Google. Right. So we all have been on Google before. We know that these two top results are usually ads, right? What I used to do is I would make pages for ads to go to collect people's information. This is a really poorly made page. So what we want to do is we want to bring in new customers, right? And the way we do that is that we collect emails, we collect information, and then we send it to a server, and then we contact them personally to get their business, right? So what I would do is I would make a website that was specific for that ad, and then I'd put a form on it, and whoever filled out the form, we would get the information, and then they would call the the users. Here's the form right here. See, Joshua, I'm not going to fill out this form because I don't want emails from these people. So what we can do, we can go to upwork.com. I'm going to log in real quick. Sorry about this, guys. All right, so we can look for landing pages. That's what they're called, landing page. And all you're doing is designing a form. You might want to put a little more style depending on the page, right? But this person is looking to design a custom landing page, which you basically just did. All you have to do is style the background a little bit more and maybe put a nav bar on top. And they're willing to pay you $35 to $150 an hour. This project is more than 6 months long. And there are 1,432 jobs like this. So with the format you just created, we'd have to write a little bit more code to serve it to a server. But with this basic example, you can go get as many freelance jobs as you want. This is why this is super important. When COVID first started, I was creating the forms like we were talking about before for a hospital that I worked for. Every day you had to fill out a form whether or not you had COVID symptoms or not. So these forms could be used in a lot of different ways. And I know it's not the most fun project, the most flashy project, but for what we're creating, it's definitely super important that you learn how to create forms, how to submit forms, which will be later on in JavaScript, is also important too. But with these two little steps, you could be, getting any one of these jobs and really just working from home in the easiest way. It's $35 to $50 an hour is 5 times more than 5 times plus than what you're making, oh, not anymore. I used to get paid $7.50 an hour for minimum wage. Now it's 15. It's twice as much as you'd be making as minimum wage. I'm just saying, don't turn your nose up at freelance work. This is all super important stuff. And I'm hoping you guys are having fun learning this stuff. Please let me know if you guys want to learn